Humanity has committed a number of atrocities, things so vile they cannot be shared. Not too long ago, it seemed HBO had committed one such horror, with their show Velma. It was rated the third worst show in IMDb history. I vowed I'd never watch it, and would have preferred to drink a bottle of acetone. But recently I got an ad from a new show made by the Daily Wire. It was called Mr. Bircham. I was sort of curious to see how it would be, as I'm also a conservative and want to see more alternatives to the mainstream. I'm also an animation enthusiast. Honestly, I didn't expect much, just a few laughs. Then I saw these Daily Wire fans leaving reviews like this. Considering these viewers are Daily Wire superfans who need a membership to view the show, Mr. Bircham probably had to be pretty bad if they were giving this many negative reviews. So how bad was Mr. Bircham exactly? Could it be worse than Velma? To get these answers, I plunged headfirst into the septic tank of hell and swallowed 30 minutes of the brain rot called Velma. Perhaps you may be wondering, Velma or Mr. Bircham? Which is worse? My answer will surprise you. Now buckle up for this bumpy ride. Let's start by comparing the show's backgrounds. With a quick glimpse, we can see Velma's backgrounds have much more detail. Also, they had more backgrounds in general. Mr. Bircham was animated at the same few scenes over and over again. That makes sense. They had to have had a much smaller budget. Now let's compare the actual animation. Something really important to animation is movement. There are two types of movement, that of the characters and that of the camera. The characters in Mr. Bircham were much stiffer, and the camera mostly stood in standard perspective. Velma was a lot more dynamic, with a wide variety of shots and angles. This made Velma visually more stimulating. Another important element of animation and art in general is exaggeration, a way to dramatize movement and dialogue to make it sound more interesting. This is especially important in acting, but animation takes it a step further, breaking concrete scientific rules in a way no other medium can. Velma does a great job here by making off-the-wall movements and expressions. Mr. Bircham, in contrast, is actually a lot stiffer. It also has less subtle movement, which gives the show a much clunkier feel. Velma wins again here. This isn't surprising, considering how Mr. Bircham's budget is much smaller. Ultimately, you can tell a great story with simple animation. Let's see if Mr. Bircham was at least written better than Velma. In order to grade Velma and Mr. Bircham, we need to understand the three elements to a good hook. Before we do that, we'll take a look at an episode from The Simpsons Golden Age and watch these elements in action. Let's take a look at The Simpsons episode The Telltale Head. It opens up with Homer embracing his son Bart, who is carrying the head of a statue. Seeing Homer's care for his son is what makes you emotionally invested in the characters. That's the first element. Then we see the two cornered by an angry mob. That's the second element, exhilaration. The third is we're left with a mystery. We want to know what will happen and how Bart ended up with the head to begin with. Remember these three elements: emotional investment in the characters, an exhilarating sequence, and the third, a mystery. Let's take a look at Velma. There was an unnecessary monologue at the beginning, but to me it seems that the true start was just a little bit after that. So we're going to cut out that monologue and go to this next part over here. Here it opens up with Daphne and the popular girls changing in the locker room and breaking the fourth wall by talking about how pilot episodes have very racy scenes to get people's attention. Then someone ominously appears and beats Daphne with a cane. It's later revealed that was Velma. The scuffle eventually leads them to opening up Velma's locker, which reveals a corpse of a girl. Velma's then taken to the police for questioning, where we learn she used to be friends with Daphne and she wants to get back at her, and her mom disappeared, which has left her emotionally broken. Going off the 3 points from The Simpsons, we do see that Velma allowed us to emotionally invest in the characters by showing she lost her friendship with Daphne, and also that she lost her mother. These two losses have really shaken her. She is very confused and angry. Of course, discovering the corpse was very exhilarating, and that left us with mystery, wondering who could have killed that girl and what happened to Velma. I'm not going to say that these three elements were executed perfectly, but they were at least present. Now we will examine Mr. Bircham, which opens up with Mr. Bircham and his friend, the car shop teacher, who are reminiscing about the time that their shop teacher lodged a screwdriver in a kid's leg. Then they make a bet about which one will be insulted first. A kid zooms by and calls Mr. Bircham Mr. Buttchunk. Finally, they come across a twink on a scooter who's the new Jedi, Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion Officer. He doesn't like the two, and he gives a vague threat by saying he will keep an eye on them. Here, they're trying to make an emotional connection by showing the older men and how they feel that they're out of place in modern society and reminisce in older times that they preferred. To me, that felt really forced and sort of like the references that Velma was making, as she also felt out of place because of her gender and her race.
White people, Daphne. Just being a white guy with a clipboard doesn't cut it anymore. Fred's a rich white guy with a tiny dong. Which white actors are descended from slave owners? Why wouldn't he? If I were a rich white dude, I'd kill everybody just to get away with it. That's some white people shit. White girl with too much money?
My name is Mr. Carponzi. My pronouns are he, him, and z. I'm a heteronormative, cisgendered white male. For which I apologize.
Last semester, I got written up for saying this kid threw like a girl. But then, 2 months later, that same kid started identifying as a girl. And nobody apologized to me. Crickets. I was early money.
That fool knows better than to come at me.
I'd be careful if I was you. The way you let the kids drag race the driver's ed car, you might be next.
No. They can't touch me. I'm black, and that used to be enough. But I'm also bilingual.
It says here you speak Spanish?
Si, senora. And I'm non-binary.
You don't even know what that means.
You're an average white guy, but this is how I identify with the district. I'm bulletproof.
Man, that's genius. Well, I might be identifying as unemployed.
Next, the conflict with the Jedi didn't really make me wonder what would happen, as he was a twink and he doesn't really seem like a formidable foe. As the show continued, I was even less concerned about the outcome, as the principal didn't seem to take this woke weirdo seriously either. Without a real danger, I emotionally checked out. Here we see Mr. Bertram didn't meet any of these 3 basic elements. Overall, Mr. Bertram is an extremely shallow character. He isn't trying to accomplish anything. He's just reluctant to adapt to modern society. This makes him a product of the plot, but really in a story, the protagonist should be the driving force that moves the plot forward. In contrast, Velma has an overarching desire. She wants to get revenge on Daphne for no longer being her friend.
You and Daphne used to be best friends, isn't that right?
Yeah, until Daphne got hot and ditched me to hang out with Brenda and the other popular girls at Spooner's Malt Shop. I could kill them all! Okay, I see how this looks bad.
And that scuffle that she started because of her want for revenge led her to discovering this corpse. Velma's character is actually moving the plot forward. She's also further deepened as a character as we learn about her mom's disappearance. That makes her very vulnerable and interesting. Shockingly, Velma's character is superior to Mr. Bertram's. Again, I'm not saying I like Velma, just that it somehow beat Mr. Bertram in those aspects. But looking at it, neither of the shows really made me laugh. I mean, there was a few times watching both of them when I gave a small chuckle like, heh, but that was it. Both of them had pretty poorly placed sex jokes too.
Ugh, this school sucks.
And how would you like it if somebody covered you in white paint?
If it was Jason Momoa, I'd be fine.
Velma's about a grumpy SJW that's upset with the past, and she wants to reshape the future in her image. Many say Velma is a Mindy Kaling self-insert, and those people are correct. Mr. Bertram is a gruff old man that doesn't understand the future and wishes it could be shaped more like him. It's also a self-insert. Both make a lot of jokes about identity politics, about racial identities, sexual identities, gender identities. In my opinion, both are just 2 sides of the same coin. There is still one more difference though. When Mr. Bertram ended, I was actually filled with relief. When Velma ended, it had a bit of a cliffhanger. It showed another corpse of someone else get discovered by Velma and Shaggy, and I was horrified that a part of me kind of wanted to know what would happen next. Of course, I didn't watch the 2nd episode, as watching Velma is like drinking nail polish. But watching Mr. Bertram is like drinking chloric acid. If you like this video, you may also enjoy this one here. I watched the Daily Wire's Chip Chilla. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.